Okay, welcome to the Meat Dudes. I am Evan, and today I am so excited. We're joined by Yuta, who is based out of Hokkaido, Japan, and gives people real behind the scenes look at the Wagyu world. And you've taken chefs, butchers, meat lovers straight to the source, connecting them with ranchers and showing them what Wagyu actually looks like in Japan. How are you doing today, Yuta?
Hi, Joanne. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Yeah, great to be with you. Thanks for hosting me.
I'm so excited. So on this podcast, we talk a lot about American Wagyu, and we love American Wagyu. But I'm so excited today because we actually get the chance to really clear up a lot of those misconceptions about Wagyu beef, and especially in Japan, what it's like in Japan. On our previous conversation on the phone, I learned so much, so many things I had wrong about Wagyu in Japan, and you are so prepared. You've come with photos and infographics, and it's really going to be cool. We're going to talk about the history of Wagyu beef and really where it comes from, in Japan, and how the Japanese eat it, and everything that you would ever want to know. I'm just so excited to talk to you today because, we, like I said, we have so many misconceptions about Wagyu beef in the United States, and from the consumers. They have no idea. They think it's only from Japan and it's only A5 and that's it. And then a lot of us in the industry think that, they only eat A5 in Japan or they do it this way. So I am so excited to clear this up, man. So first of all, what do you do in Japan? And then why did you get connected with the Meat Dudes?
Oh yeah, thank you. Let me give you a brief introduction of myself.
Mhm.
My name is Yuta Abe. I come from a farming town of about 20,000 people,
Mhm.
where all my friends are farmers, crop farmers, wagyu farmers, dairy farmers. And I studied abroad from age uh, 18 to 23 in California. And at 29, I joined a European tractor import company. And in Hokkaido, fields are large, and domestic tractors don't often meet productivity needs. So European and US imports are pretty common. It's a luxury too. And after that, I became independent interpreter, and I work in agriculture industry specifically. So I work with potato growers, sugar beet growers, and these people are breeding their genetics and trying to create a variety that's resistant to diseases, have more yield. And I'm just focused on agriculture sector. And from about 2018, uh, group of international farmers, Wagyu farmers specifically, started coming to Hokkaido. They want to see the farms. They want to get connected to the farmers. And I started arranging my Wagyu tour from that time. So about 5 to 6 years, I've been arranging numbers of people coming to Hokkaido, coming to Kobe, coming to Tokyo. And they all want to see the genuine Wagyu farm and go to the attached restaurant to enjoy their Wagyu. And we just move to the next destination. That's kind of the things I've been arranging.
Nice. Nice. Well, I almost start this question off with everybody, and I'd love to ask you, what is Wagyu beef in your words?
So Wagyu beef is a genetics
Mhm.
that has high marble, soft meat, which has silky texture in your mouth, and you can actually eat so many rare cuts from one cattle. You eat uh, tenderloin, chateaubriand, sirloin, of course, but with wagyu you get to eat more jack flap tails, hanging tender, outside skirts, even tongues are
Yeah.
delicious, which we can talk about later. But Wagyu is a very special breed, and if you learn history, I think you get to know like why they're marbled, what are the terroirs for the Wagyu, which brand has this and that, and yeah, there's so much information. I'm afraid I'm going to leave something out tonight, so I'll try to make sure I will give you a full glimpse, in a chronological order.
I love it. And from our previous conversation, we're probably gonna have to have a few of these. because we're going to cover a lot of information. And I'm just, like I said, like I keep repeating, I'm so excited to get your perspective about this, learn the history, get the real story. And I also, I'm going to ask a lot of questions about American Wagyu and what you think of American Wagyu and how we can explain it better to the American consumer, because I want to get some good points here. I want the consumers to understand all the history, and then I want a lot of the ranchers in the U.S. to kind of hear this as well and say this is how we can explain it the right way and give the real history about what it is. And so I'm so excited. So speaking of history, I know you want to hop into it. So let's get into the history of Wagyu from Utah in Japan. Let's go.
So can I share my screen with you right
Mhm.
now?
Yeah,
That,
go ahead. Yeah, you got up some great graphics, so I'm really excited to see some of this stuff. It's gonna break it down pretty well for us.
yes, but I just worked on it last night, and this is
Looks
like a
real.
rookie quality slides, so you have to forgive me for that.
Hey, it all helps, man. It all helps. It's all good.
All right, so let me share that screen with you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, this is gonna be cool.
Okay, do you see it right now?
Looks like it's popping up. Okay, cool. Here we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
So currently, we have primarily four different breeds.
Yes.
This is the Japanese black,
Mm-hmm.
Japanese Akaushi,
Mm-hmm.
Nohon, and Pole.
Okay.
And in order to explain these four and the Wagyu in US and Wagyu in Australia and in the rest of the world, it's really, really easier to explain it from the point A to Z.
Yeah.
So let me go back to this one. Um, so this is scroll form of 10 national carols written in way back in time, and this scroll form actually contains all these paintings of the cattle in each region. Now, back then, these were primarily the draft animals. No one ate those beefs, but they were tractor for the farmers at the time. And
Yeah.
across Japan, we have rice fields everywhere. Therefore, original Wagyus were everywhere. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And this is Echizen cattle, Tajima cattle, Tamba cattle, and this is a Yamato cattle. So these breeds were everywhere in Japan.
And this scroll
And
was
then,
in 1310. You said.
yes, the original one was written in 1310,
Jeez.
and in 1778, the manuscript copy was written.
Okay.
So what you're seeing right now is from 1778, but
Yeah.
these original photos are taken from 13th century.
So why weren't you eating the wagyu in 1778?
That's a great question. Thank you, Ian. So, um, April 1st, 1675, Emperor Temu issued Japan's first ban on meat consumption. So, before that, there were a couple of literature that we used to eat meat. However, after this period, we started to farm grow more crops, more veggies, and we mainly took protein source from fishes. So this is a good example that people working on a field. This is a rice field, and there's some cattle working on the side.
Yeah.
So this is how they worked back in the days. And then it goes to uh, Shusuke Maeda's era. He was born in 1797. He died in 1872, but he's from Ojiro, which is Tajima area. Now, at that time, they knew high performing cattle were delicious. They
Really?
sometimes probably ate the cattle when they were sick and they needed to eat meat.
Yeah.
So they knew high performing is equaling to the high quality meat.
Performing cattle is good to eat. Is a well marbled, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So
Yeah.
this guy, Shusuke, started breeding the highest breed possible in Tajima region. And he basically accumulated so much debt, bought many cattle, breed them, and he was trying to create the best cattle in the nation. And he basically made a something called Tsuru bloodline, which is we call fixed gene. When a female cattle has superior genetic traits, she can pass down to her daughter and the granddaughter. This is the fixed gene. So
Okay.
he's actually created this by his experience and knowledge, and he actually created it through bloodline. This was a huge change in the industry.
And where is the Tajima area? It says Tajima area. Where is that about?
So out of the Hyogo prefecture,
Mm-hmm.
Tajima area is toward the north side
Okay.
of Hyogo prefecture.
Okay.
Let me show you this map.
Oh,
So this
okay.
is
Yep.
Hyogo prefecture. Can you see it?
Yoga. Yep.
Tajima
Okay.
is right around here.
Okay.
Kobe is here.
Mm,
Kyoto's here. So
yeah.
that this is
Okay.
Tajima.
Wow.
So he's created this bloodline,
Yes.
and what's fascinating about him is that he created this Tsuru bloodline before uh, Mendelian inheritance in 1865. He's from Austria. Now it's the Czech Republic, but he sort of discovered the genetic patterns in plants and animals. But Shusuke was actually doing that way before him. So
Really.
that's interesting stuff.
So he's the kind of like
And
the first one to be able to do that in Japan and really create those genetics and that bloodline.
absolutely, yes.
Cool. Okay.
And then samurai era ended, which is a major restoration in
Yep.
1869. Government sort of supported people to eat meat. In fact, they pushed people to eat meat. So meat consumption skyrocketed, demand skyrocketed. So people generally wanted to have bigger cattle. Prior to that, cattle were very small because they had to go into the field, they have to work hard, and Japanese farms are very small, so they need to be smaller. They needed to be smaller, but now all of a sudden everyone's eating beef, and let's breed bigger cattle. This is when we imported foreign breeds into our country and crossbred.
Okay.
But
So like to help
in
with the size, right?
exactly, we need to help this. We need to have more meat carcasses so that we can eat more meat. However, it ended up in a disaster.
Okay.
Those crossbred Wagyus, acted aggressively. They weren't obedient at the farm, and meat tasting actually got worse.
Really.
Meat quality got worse. So, people said, no, no more crossbreeding, and let's go back and, find original breed. But at the time, most of the cattle were crossed with foreign breeds, and there weren't any that they could find. However, Tajima area's got hills and mountains everywhere. So they went out to look for cattle that's original in Tajima. And supposedly they found four cattle that were the pure Tajima, and they were not crossbred with foreign genetics. Some say it's four. There were actually hundreds of them. There were a couple myths, but they took that cattle and started breeding again, kind of a back crossing to our original cattle. And here comes the legendary bull Tajiri, born in 1939. And this
Really.
happened in, again, same area, Ojiro in Tajima area.
Yes.
And
So why is he the
and
legendary bull?
so out of the Japanese black
Mm-hmm.
that we have in Japan and in the rest of the world, 99.9% of them are descendants of this Tajiri. So this is the bull who's got the modeling, who's got the yield, and who's got the everything in one. And he had, obviously 1,500 descendants from him, and this is the famous cattle. So this guy was a Shozo Tajiri. This Shozo Tajiri and Shusuke Maeda have many things in common. They were both living in Ojiro Tajima. Also, both of them accumulated so much debt over the years by purchasing so many cows, breeding them, experimenting, but they just took that risk to create some super, genomic cow bull, So these are the goats in Wagyu history in Tajima.
Yeah, that was 1939. Okay, that photo was taken.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then some of it had, Simmentals and other breeds, and it's the Akaushi. Some are bred with no pole genes, and that's the this is a no pole Japanese, and this is the short horn Japanese. So black.
We don't see those very much in the United States. Right.
Right. I think during the 90s, many of Japanese blacks went out to
Yeah.
USA, as well as some Akaushi,
Yeah.
but not a lot of Japanese shorthorn and Japanese no horn, because we even don't have much no horn and shorthorn in our land either. So that's how everything sort of, took place in history. And in the 90s, obviously, genetics and cattle were exported to USA, and therefore in USA there are full bloods as well as American Wagyu, and there are big non-bulk cattle in USA. At the same time, Australia imported those genetics from USA and from directly from Japan to Australia, and they have big herds over there too.
Yeah. So they got the bulls and the cattle from the United States, and then they imported genetics from Japan. Is that right? Or did they get actual cattle in Australia from Japan?
I think they got the genetics from USA and cattle from Japan.
Okay. Cool. Wow. So Chang. So little history there. That's how the original four breeds were kind of created. Yeah, but most of it you said that is the Japanese black. That's most of the cattle in Japan and all over the world, right? Is that you're going to see mostly the Japanese black?
Yes, Japanese black have the highest marbling genetics. They have a very good yield. Carcass
Yeah.
size is very big. So, farmers prefer Japanese black. However, in Japan, there are some Akaushi grower groups.
Yeah.
They have the genetics and they breed them. They register their brand, and they sell it locally. They sell nationwide. So Akaushi is I think it's second famous breed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it got to the United States in the 90s. Now, I got to ask, what did the Japanese think about and feel? How did they feel when it was exported? It was legally exported, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Uh, because at the time there was no law against exploitation of the genetics.
Okay.
However, uh, before that, Japan Wagyu registration was telling farmers, let's not export our genetics to overseas.
Yeah.
However, this farmer in Hokkaido exported genetics to USA throughout the 90s, as well as the cattle. Uh, and and honestly, many of the farmers in mainland weren't quite happy about it. So shortly after that, they've actually, I think they spoke to politicians, and they've illegalized exportation of the Wagyu genetics to the rest of the world.
Yeah. So now you can't get genetics or live cattle from exported out of Japan. Am I correct?
Not at all. It's against the law.
It's against the law.
And, maybe once a year, once in 2 years, we see uh, a Chinese worker coming into Japan working in a farm, and they are exporting genetics to China, and he gets caught, and he makes the headline on the news.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it. It's the national treasure, of Japan. It's one of the greatest things in the world. So I understand why, they don't want it to ship out anywhere else. So that means that anywhere else in the world, those are the same genetics that basically came from the United States, or the cattle at least. If anyone has cattle, right? Then like because there's some in Brazil now. There's South Africa. Well, we know Australia, right? So Canada, all of that, right?
That's a great point. So I should mention at this point, so this farmer exported genetics in cattle to the United States.
Yeah.
Now, for the record, there were three other private companies who also exported genetics, and one of them exported genetics to Brazil. In
Oh,
fact, they put cattle on a ship and exported to Brazil. So in
really?
Brazil, they have a Wagyu Association. They have a pretty concrete program, seed
Yeah.
program, and they do it pretty well.
Yeah. I actually just talked to somebody from Brazil who's part of the Brazilian Wagyu Council, I believe it's called. But yeah, they have a very strict policies, and people have to be on site while the animal is slaughtered of from the association. So yeah, it was pretty good pretty good interview. But yeah, so it was export. Oh, what about? Do you know anything about when it was exported illegally in the 70s? Because there's that mystical story in the U.S. that there was four bulls that were exported in the 70s to Japan, from Japan to the United States. I believe it was illegally. And it's always like to me, it's like this story that nobody really knows exactly what happens, and it's like a fairy tale. But do you know much about what happened with that?
Oh, I have no idea about that. I've never
Mm.
heard of it before.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah, whenever I see farmer, next time I'll mention it to them. Like, did it really happen? I've heard of such a story.
yeah. Apparently, there's like four bulls that were smuggled out, and so there's been crossbred wagyu in the United States since the 70s, but nothing that's really traceable. I don't believe until the 90s, until those were legally exported. So
Right, right. So
that's how I
yeah, speaking of, traceable or not, yeah, all
know.
the all the genetics that went to USA, they have the data, they know the sire and dam, so everything
Yeah,
is, proven that they come from Japan.
yeah,
Although it went to USA, those genetics were, somewhat popular 30 years ago.
yeah,
And genetic improvements here is happening constantly. It's really, really fast. So whenever I have Aussie farmers talking about genetics here in Japan with the top tier farmers,
yeah.
um, the farmers here get surprised. Like, are you talking about like Michifuku and Itoshige Nami? That's like 30 years ago. We never hear those genetics anymore. So genetic improvements are happening here at a very fast pace. That's different.
Yeah, well, yeah, with all the wagyu over there, it's got to be a little bit easier to improve. That's cool.
That's
No,
correct. Yes, exactly.
yeah, wow. So okay, so like you said, we're talking about the legal export in the 90s. So there's about 200 animals or something somewhere around there that were legally exported of the Japanese black, and then there was another exportation of the Akaushi, and it was like less than 50, I believe. Wasn't very many that came over. Um, in that maybe right around the same time. It had to be in the 90s at some point, right?
Yeah, definitely in the 90s. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Jeez, that's so it's over here now. So, and I heard you say the term American Wagyu. So you said there's full blood and there's American Wagyu, and that's something that we talk about all the time, especially on this podcast. Is what is American Wagyu? And to me, it means that Wagyu that is just raised in the United States. But to a lot of people, it means that it's the 50-50 cross, the 50% Wagyu and the 50% usually Angus. That's what a lot of people still refer to. But I don't know. I think it's just Wagyu that's raised in the United States. So you could have full blood American Wagyu, you could have purebred American Wagyu, you could have F1 cross American Wagyu, you could have all that. That's just I'm just trying to get on the same page with everybody.
Yeah, that's true. So I've been to Texas. It was two
Hmm.
years ago, I think, and I've tasted full blood Wagyu there. Also,
Yeah.
American Wagyu, which is the Wagyu cross, right?
Yep. That's what you said. Yep.
Yeah, they taste great.
Yeah.
Um, and in Texas, there's a huge, Angus production, Wagyu production. That's the center of cattle business in USA. And
Yeah.
having lived in the USA, I understand the meat culture there. You
Yeah.
guys have steaks and barbecues. There's also the burgers and fries. That's part of your culture. And yeah, you guys eat a ton of meat. You guys probably eat like 5 times more meat than what we consume over here.
Yeah. Well, so talking about consuming in Japan, I mean, I think in the United States, we think that everybody in Japan is just eating A5, 2 ounces of A5, 3 times a week. I mean, we have F1 cross here, as we talked about. Is there F1 cross in Japan, and is that popular with the Japanese, or is it just strictly A5 all the time? How do you feel about it?
So to answer your question, so we love, high marbling, high-end, delicious Wagyu.
Hmm.
At the same time, F1 production and F1 consumption is on the rise too.
Yeah.
So we love both. I think those are two different things. And yeah, like my wife, she personally prefers F1 over full blood. I love, full blood with marbling, with ton of oleic acid in it. But what we have over here is that full blood Wagyu, and we call it cross, which is
Yeah.
the Wagyu cross. Those are two different things because
Yeah.
under our law, the Wagyu, if it's labeled Wagyu, it's 100% Wagyu.
Yeah.
If it's
Okay.
labeled as a cross, it's a Wagyu cross. When it's labeled for the cross, it does not have Wagyu on the labeling at all. We cannot do that. So, Wagyu, cross, these are two different things.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. And gosh, so full blood Wagyu over there, a lot of the times we're talking about A5. What do people how do people eat it in because we, America Wagyu in America, like you said, in Texas, we like to eat our steaks. We like to eat steaks in the US, and so are you not eating like a full on steak of A5 Wagyu, right? Like that's going to be very hard to do. We talk about that a lot. So what's the eating style? How much do the Japanese eat when they sit down? And with the cross as well, are they eating full steaks? Like how do people enjoy Wagyu in Japan?
That's good. That's a great question. Thank you. So for the full blood, there are more than a couple of ways to eat it. But for the F1s, I think majority of them are eaten in yakiniku and steaks. F1 makes great steaks.
Yes.
Now, can I show you some of the ways we eat Wagyu?
Yeah, please do because as far as we know, a lot of us just say that it's shabu shabu 7 days a week, and that's not right. So I want you to show me all the different ways that the Japanese enjoy it.
Right? So, yeah, we eat Wagyu in various ways. Out of the survey in 2005 from a Japan meat consumption data center, the best way to eat Wagyu is this Japanese style yakiniku. You
How is that?
enjoy many different cuts. You just grill it in front of you, and you just eat it with a pinch of salt and pepper, or with a little bit of sauce.
Okay. So
And
thinly
the
cut grilled. Perfect.
second popular dish is this teppanyaki steak style.
Yeah.
And chef shows you the rare meat and starts grilling the garlic first, which you will see in front of it. And
Okay.
they just grill the whole steak, cuts it for you. It's a great experience just seeing the house chef, meticulously cuts the meat, grills the meat, and enjoy it.
Yes. What
The
kind of
reason I
like
really,
for that last steak that you were showing? that, how many people is that going to feed, you think?
I think this is for one or two.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, cool.
he's just cooking in front of a couple or something. But
Yeah,
if yeah, when we generally go to these teppanyaki, we can choose 120 grams, 150 grams, and I think you can go up to 150, 180 grams as well. So
okay.
those are the like main portions we eat wagyu in. And the third one, this is the sukiyaki. So
Yep.
some of the listeners might be confusing sukiyaki with shabu shabu. I'll show you shabu shabu's photo too. This is shabu shabu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shabu shabu's using hot water. You put, tofu in, onion, and shiitake mushrooms in, and you put wagyu in this boiling water. And sukiyaki, on the other hand, has slightly different vegetables, but very different sauce compared to shabu shabu. These are sweetened, soy sauce based sauce, broth, and you put the meat over in it, and you eat it with everything else. And we actually, a lot of people prefer sukiyaki because when you boil the wagyu, all the oils and umami actually goes out to the broth. But in this sukiyaki, the portion of broth is quite low, so all the umami that's taken out from the meat gets observed in the veggies. So the veggies actually taste fantastic under sukiyaki. On the other hand, not so much in shabu shabu where all the meat's flavor is just in the water and it stays there. So I think, we get the most out of wagyu under this sukiyaki meal.
Yeah. And so some of those cuts that you're showing, when I think of a cow, of a Wagyu cow in Japan, and I think of, an A5 cow, I mean, what kind of cuts do they use for a lot of these dishes? I mean, are they using the ribeye, or are they using like everything? Are they cutting the top round really thin? Are they cutting are they using flanks? Like, what kind of cuts are they using? How do they utilize the whole cow in Japan?
Right, thank you for asking. So for this sukiyaki dish and also shabu shabu dish, they use loins, sirloins,
Yep.
those main cuts.
Mhm.
However, under yakiniku, we eat everywhere, literally everywhere. Now, let me show you another slide. Um, so this is my photo I've taken 2 months ago when I was in Tajma. So this is the 40 different one cuts of Tajma. Okay. And just, you see this cast iron cow shaped pan, you see?
Yep.
So there's a tongue. Obviously, this is the mouth and ear of the cattle.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's the intestines here, inner thigh, sirloin, loin, short rib, up to the tail. Now, I really, really don't convince travelers to eat intestines, but I would always say try hanging tender, try outside skirt, and try tongues. They're delicious. Now, when I was in Tajma for this occasion, I took 15 European travelers into Kyoto and we traveled. Now, out of those 15 people, no one has left a piece on a plate. Everyone ate the whole cuts.
I love
Yeah.
it. That's it, totally. Oh wow. Well, it's cool to see this photo because when you said down by the leg, and I think you called it the inner thigh. That is a marbled piece of meat, but it's not like pure white like a lot of people imagine A5, because maybe parts of the cow don't get as marbled as the ribeye, and as some of those more popular marbled cuts. So that's cool to see how you can really utilize all those different cuts and how they do look different. And it's because I think when we think A5 in our head, we think that the whole cow is just this pure white fat cow with a little bit of pink meat. But like there's some good meat there. There's some really good meat on that. It looks good, man. I'd eat all those cuts.
You're right about that, 100%.
Hmm.
What we say here is that the more movement there is, the less modeling there will be. So,
Yes.
out of that context, these thighs are working hard. There's
Hmm.
more fiber. It's a little bit stiffer per se.
Yeah.
However, these parts do not have much of a movement as cows walking. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
highly marbled, flavors in there, and it's really, really good looking. And
Yeah.
the point of this meal is that every cut has a different texture and different flavor. So
Yes.
not only texture, flavor is different on each cut.
Hmm.
And I should say these 15, European people, they're all Caucasian people. They
Yeah.
came here, ate everything. And shortly after that, the butcher and the chef, he just came out from the kitchen and everybody was just giving him a warm round of applause. And and he was sharing us about how he got up 2 in the morning, came to the kitchen in three, and started preparing all these cup for 15 people. And these are fantastic flavor. Now, when you go to Tajma, there's one term that people always use when you speak to the farmer. They always say Wagyu aroma.
What did they say?
They say enjoy Wagyu aroma.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And what they mean is that, in Tajima, they put the cattle in a lot longer. The
Hmm.
definition of Kobe beef is that they are they're harvested between like 25 months to 60 months. So some people put cow until they reach 60 months old, you know?
5 years old. Jeez.
Yeah, and the longer you put them on a feedlot, the more flavor they accumulate. And this is what farmers always imply the Wagyu aroma. And when you go to Takuma, they have tons of, Wagyu aroma, which is coconut slash peach flavor, and it's always enjoyable.
Really? that's that's interesting. And yeah, I'm just yeah, Kobe, I don't know if we want to get into Kobe today, but yeah, that's such a big thing over here in the United States too. It's just the misconception of what Kobe is, and people thinking that it's just Wagyu and getting those terms confused. And what is the Japanese? What do they think of Kobe beef?
Oh, Kobe beef is a classic meat. We have
Yeah.
Wagyu everywhere attached to the local region and farmers and restaurants and brands. But Kobe beef is just one of the classic meat. If
Yeah.
I could just sort of talk about Kobe in a sports, I'd say Kobe beef is going to be Jackie Robinson in Major League Baseball.
Oh, okay.
So Jackie Robinson was a prime player when he started playing for Brooklyn Dodgers or LA Dodgers,
Yeah.
and he kind of got the highlight, gave chance to all all of the African American players and Asian players, right?
Yeah.
Kobe's the same. Plasma genetics such a great fantastic meat for centuries. But then people bought Tajma genetics and
Mhm.
breed locally or put them in a feedlot locally, and they create their own brand beef.
Yeah.
And literally Kobe beef is or Tajma cattle per se. Tajma cattle is giving out chances to everyone in Japan to create the brand beef with high quality. So Kobe beef is a Jackie Robinson.
That's a good comparison. And so kind of, maybe what you're saying also is that there's other Wagyu out there that are maybe as good as Kobe, right? Like because when we think of it here, it's like the top of the top and nothing else, can touch it. But maybe, it is the most famous, it's the most popular. But there are some other ones that can actually do it as well, that are up there as well, because yeah, you don't hear that in the United States very much. It's Kobe's the top.
Right. So the following information I will share with you,
Yeah.
you just have to remember it and join my tour.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so let me show you the beef guidebook out of 2023. And
Okay.
on this guidebook, each brand is defining their own program. So
Okay.
they can just come up with their program and define it over here. And there are over 350 brands in Japan.
Jeez.
Yeah, so not only like Kobe,
Yeah.
Matsusaka, Mie, we have over 350 brands over here. Let's take a look a little bit. So yeah, this is my favorite. This is the Sendai beef, and it's a Japanese black. They spent 30 months and they get harvested. What's the feed? Centered in barley, they put rice straw as a feed.
Yeah.
So all the brands have these definitions, and they raise it according to the definitions and sell it.
That's kind of that's interesting because once again, to my knowledge, the feed is very secretive in Japan. Like if they're like, oh, no one's going to tell you how they're fed. And we think it's the same. Like they all get fed the same thing because that's how they all get super marble. But like in the United States, I mean, we're talking to ranchers all over the United States, and they get fed this and that, and whatever's local. There's alfalfa here, there's barley here, they're finished on corn here, they're grass fed, grass finished over here, and it all turns out to be amazing. They all have different flavors. So is that kind of how it's like in Japan as well? I mean, I'm assuming that's the same thing, right? That they're each
Exactly.
ranch is different.
Exactly. Some people use hay, some people use rice straw. People use the byproduct of food production. Some people
Mhm.
put olives to make olive beef. Some
Yeah,
people put the byproduct of wine and, you know, feed the rest of the grapes or lea, and they make a
yeah.
brand out of it. So these are very common that farmers are attached to the local industry, and
Mhm.
they take that advantage of it and make their own brand beef. Now,
Yeah,
in our country, grading is, I think, thing of the past. No one talks about A5 or A4 anymore.
really.
And
Wow.
it's always the farmers or sellers talking about what are the feed, what are the environment, what's special about our cattle or our meat. So those are the three things we talk about before buying meat. But we're nearly 70% of the steers are graded A5. So there's no, you know, we need a measurement to know which one is noticeably tastier meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's cool. That's just, I mean, that's exactly how it is in the United States as well. Is everybody can find their own flavor of wagyu. And that's why we love to talk about it being a spectrum. Even in Japan, it's fed this, it's fed that. And that's interesting that only 5 or 7% of wagyu in Japan is graded A5. I didn't realize that. That's why a lot of people think that everyone's just eating A5 every single night over there, but it's not, right? That's that's
Sorry,
that's
I said 68% is already graded A5.
Oh, 60. Oh, I thought you said, okay. Well, I'm way off. Okay. So
So yeah,
68.
nearly 70% is A5.
Yeah.
So within those 70%, which one is the tastier
Mhm.
meat? That's
Oh,
our
7. Okay. Okay. That makes more sense. Okay. That makes more sense. I was like, that's a low number. Jeez. No, that's interesting though, man. But back to, the United States as well, and how everyone is doing their own feed, and I just love talking about how Wagyu is such a spectrum because everybody's doing it differently and everyone has different flavors. And so I'm sure, some people really like the high marbling, some people don't want the high marbling, some people want, you know, more of a steak. Some people want grass fed, grass finished. Some people love that corn flavor that we have in the Midwest. And some people want the alfalfa and the barley. And some, I've heard of people finishing on the what is it, the unsellable fruit, that gets thrown away, in the ugly carrots. People are finishing their animals on that. So it really is, it's about the farm and about the ranch, and that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. Of course, I just didn't put it together, but I mean, of course, that it's really more about the ranch and the feed and how they're being raised than it is about the marbling or the score, and that no one's really saying. So you're not just throwing around the term A5 all the time in Japan. It's like, what does this ranch do differently than this ranch? And maybe I can find a good beef that, over here because I like what they do versus over here because maybe I don't like what they do. So I think that's
Exactly.
love that. I love
Yeah,
that,
I
man.
think globally, everything is transparent. Consumers gain more knowledge. We have more choices. We can buy things out of the internet by clicking
Yeah,
it. So I
yeah,
think, this opens a window for experiencing the best beef or better beef. And I think it's
yeah,
good for everyone. By the way, I've got a question even.
yeah.
What's your favorite Wagyu in the United States or American Wagyu?
Man, for me, it's really about the cut. So I love a full blood or purebred New York strip. That's one of my favorite cuts that I'll have. I'd love a F1 cross ribeye. That's great. I think a full blood ribeye for me is too rich. Um, I love the Denver steaks. I could do a Denver steak from F1 to full blood. I love those offcuts. We just cooked up some bavettes and skirts. And they were full blood and they were just amazing. But like I said, I mean it's so funny because I say full blood, but full blood from the state of Oklahoma versus full blood from the state of Washington is very different, just like in the different prefectures and different ranches up in over in Japan. So it is about how it's fed for me, and it depends on the mood that I'm in because I'll have full blood wagyu that's been grass fed, grass finished, and it tastes amazing. And then I'll have some grass fed, grain finished, from Oklahoma that's full blood and tastes amazing. So I love it all. It just depends on the mood, I think, and it's a spectrum for me. And I have had great A5 as well, and I'm sure I'm not tasting the same A5 that you're tasting, because I don't know that the type of A5 that gets shipped to the United States if it's going to be the same quality as the highest quality in Japan too. But the A5 that I've had, I think is great too.
No, I agree with you 100%. It's a spectrum. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
correct term.
Yeah,
And, over there in Japan too, everyone's got a different genetics, different feed, different climate.
yeah,
And I was actually listening to your other episodes, and your buddy Tyler talked
yep,
about like terroir.
yeah.
That's the
Terroir.
terroir is the term we should be using for Wagyu because based on the feed that they give to the cattle,
Mm-hmm.
Wagyu tastes, vastly different. In each area, there are brand beefs, and you know, people feed different stuff. But not only what type of feed they feed, the climate really matters.
Yes.
The um, if if a climate has a gap in the morning at night,
Mm-hmm.
cattle's bodies get tense and they have a higher quality meat. And if there's a huge gap between summer and winter, they spend the summer calmly chilling. However, in the winter time, they have to go through the cold winter and they actually accumulate higher quality fat. That's what we discussed.
Right.
Also, I have to say I enjoyed Sendai beef in northern part of mainland. That was one of the
Okay.
top beef I've tasted up
Sendai.
here.
Okay.
And I was just reading, many literatures about, what differentiates the meat flavor. And one of the thing I found was the Sendai was actually on a coast. The farmers are actually located on a coast, and that's where they raise wagyu and they raise rice. And under Sendai beef, they define that they put rice straw, and those rice straws are growing by the sea, and it receives so much sea breeze. So all the minerals and nutrients go into the rice, and the cattle eats those rice straw. So these are the making the differences. So terroir is something we should be talking about across the globe, and everything is attached to wagyu meat on a plate.
That's such a great example, and we talk about terroir a lot, and we just kind of started talking about it, in the last 6 months because we really have been trying a lot of wagyu all over the U.S. And I love that example of the sea breeze hitting the rice straw, because it reminds me of, we have a restaurant here in Seattle, and we have to do a lot of whiskey. And so you could talk about, what they use in Scotland and what they use in Ireland. And sometimes, the distilleries that are right on the sea get that sea breeze and that brininess, and you can taste it, in the terroir, in the barrel. And it really does, create such a unique flavor. And once again, that's why we say that Wagyu is a spectrum from A5 all the way to F1 Cross. We say that almost every single podcast, that Wagyu is a spectrum, and people will be able to find great Wagyu whether they want A5 or whether they want F1 Cross. It's going to be amazing beef wherever they find themselves on that spectrum. And that's the one thing that we love about Wagyu, is that it's something for everyone, and it's all going to be great. You just have to find your flavor and find what you like and kind of what you understand. And the more you learn about it, this is just like wine. If you know nothing about wine and you try a bunch of wine, you're going to say, oh, this kind of tastes the same. Once you start to learn a little bit about it, how it's grown, you're going to say, wow, this is amazing. I feel like I can taste this, and I'm trying more, and I can taste this flavor, and I understand what goes into it. And there's so much that goes into Wagyu. And when it's being raised, especially in Japan, can you dispel some of the myths in Japan? Because everybody, when I say it to my dad, I say, hey, I'm eating Wagyu. He goes, oh, don't they drink beer and get massaged?
All right, that's a good question. So let me share another photo from my screen.
Yes.
So people talk about like brush in beer. That's the two common things you get questioned, right?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, let me answer to those two questions.
Yeah. Pull up the slides.
All right. Can you see the slide even?
Yep, I can now. Yes.
So, uh, do we brush the cattle? Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay.
Cattle stay in a barn in our country, and it's one of the ways to release stress and have them sleep longer and eat longer. And
Okay.
of course, cattle can't scratch their back when it's itchy. So
Yeah.
this is a auto-rotating brush that's
Yeah.
installed in the barn. When cattle gets closer, this brush turns. And
So,
so many
okay.
cattle just come close and get brushed on their back. They feel comfortable. They get massaged maybe like 10 or 20 minutes or so, and they just lay down, sleep more, and eat more. The other photos I can show you is this is a fixed brush. So cattle can just go to the corner, put their back against the wall, and they feel comfortable. So, do we brush the cattle? Yes, we do.
Yes. Well,
The other thing, actually, go ahead.
well, real quick on that, is that because um, of keeping it very low stress, right? Like that's one of the main things that we're trying to do, especially with Wagyu, is keep it, and with all livestock, really, the best way to raise them is to keep them very low stress so they don't create that cortisol. And is that where it kind of comes from? At least all the myths and the legends in the United States is like, someone's out there massaging them, but they really do have those brushes because they want them to be comfortable all the time so they're not stressed. Am I correct there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you know, to lower the level of cortisol in the system is yes, 100%. That's what farmers are trying to do. If farmers have big pen that's big enough to walk around and become comfortable, sometimes they might not have the brushes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the smaller the farm is, there's more probability that they install the brushes uh, to make the cattle comfortable. And basic principle is that if they sleep more, they'll eat more.
Yeah.
That's that's what they want at the end of the day. Now, about brushing, I should be mentioning this is the brush for competition. So
Yes.
people own the brush, and all the breeders brush the cattle every day before they before they sell the calves.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. And they actually create a thick layer of hair. That's considered the elite, and that's a high score for competition.
Really, really.
And
Okay.
when they take them to the competition or auction, they use this. They put their hands and brush like this. They
Yep.
brush them every day, every day.
Really, really. So they do. And one of my questions, I guess, talking about being Wagyu raised in Japan is a lot of people think they're very confined. They can't move around, and that's how they get so fatty. And we know that that's not right. But we also know that in Japan, there's not a ton of big grasslands where they can be raised. So we don't have ginormous areas, right? Am I correct there? But how are they raised, like in their pens?
Okay, first of all, even you have to join my tour and see
Uh-huh.
all the farms and take a photograph and to show all the American farmers how we do and the reason we do it.
Oh, we
But
got it.
the barns and pens, they are not that small. They can
Okay.
walk around, they can run around. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
However, speaking of the land, we have, you know, total number of hectares in Japan is actually smaller than California. And out of the land, 75% of the land is made of mountains. So we are actually farming and living within the under a quarter of our land. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why we first have to feed ourselves.
Yep.
So like a big city, big building and farm, first we have to, grow crops for ourselves.
Yes.
And we have to make a barn, we have to grow hay and all kind of stuff for feeding. And we just don't have enough land to put cattle on a pasture for
Yeah.
grazing. And in fact, we import so much hay and grass from west coast of the USA. They're from California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Utah. We import so many containers of them into Japan. So we have shortages in feed. Therefore, we don't have enough land to grow grass and just feed them on the pasture now.
Yeah. Well, with it being so rocky, it's crazy because when we go to Bar R Ranch, which is in Eastern Washington, good buddies of ours, they have these huge canyons and they have a ton of Wagyu beef, and they're going up and down these canyons. They're very very agile on like a rocky mountainous canyonous area. So is that because they've just been used to doing that? I mean, they've been in Japan for so long that they're just used to going up and down, and how does that, because I don't see that with other cattle. I don't know if that's true.
So yeah, so let me share a story of Tajima.
Mm-hmm.
Tajima area is made of mountains and hills.
Yes.
And I talked about Tajiri and Shusuke, who are the goats in Tajima breeding.
Yeah.
They live in the most hilly area with the
Yeah.
least amount of sunlight. So that place was not a center of agriculture. However, it ended up being the best place for keeping the cattle. So let's say you have a hilly mountains and you have small plots over there. You don't have to build a fence, but put cattle over there and they fertilize naturally,
Yeah.
easily done. And they also walk around the mountain. It's the training for their body and they become stronger. They become delicious.
Yeah.
So
That's what's in their blood. It's in their blood.
exactly. That's kind of a coincidence that people raised cattle over there and ended up breeding the best genetics. But
Yeah.
for the cattle, it actually works out to raise them in the mountainous area.
That's crazy. Do they? I think we skipped this one, but do they get fed beer all the time? Is that something too?
So the beer conversation, yes, thanks for asking. I've asked almost all the farmers I visited,
Mhm.
and none of them said, yes, I feed beer.
Okay.
But they always say, yeah, I have someone who said if cows just lose an appetite, we just feed them beer and
Yeah.
becomes happy to eat more. So
Yeah.
a few people are doing them.
Yeah.
The other story I actually read on this publication is that some farmers give, you know, to the recipient mother, giving a birth to the babies, and it's very hard for her. So they just isolate the mother a little bit. They give like 3 bottles of beer into the feed, and she's happy, and she comes back and feed the cattle. So a few people I think do it, not a
Yeah.
lot.
Okay. Okay. Well, good. It's good to hear that, because that's like the first thing that you hear in the United States is that, oh yeah, beer and massages and it's fake over here. I mean, I mean, do I'm going to ask you this question: Do the Japanese think that the Wagyu in America is fake?
So sorry, America. I have to share this news. So after the genetic has leaked,
Yeah,
and genetic outflow, USA, Australia, they have the Wagyu. Our government installed a new law in 2007
yeah,
that all the full blood or F1 Wagyu imported into Japan cannot have a labeling as a Wagyu
yeah,
or cross. It's
yeah,
just going to be beef. So
yeah. Okay.
basically, we don't have any branding of American Wagyu or Aussie Wagyu. It's all
Yeah.
American beef or Aussie beef. And people in the industry know you guys have big production of Wagyu and cross as well as in Australia, but consumers have no idea.
So even like full blood though, like full blood Wagyu. What do people in Japan think of full blood Wagyu in the United States?
I don't think people know about it. I didn't know it until I got into the farming business 13 years ago. I didn't know
Really?
those things exist. Yeah, just American steak. Like, I love steaks. I
Yeah,
used to go to, House of Prime Rib in San Francisco, Ruth and Chris Steakhouse. You guys
yeah,
have tons of great steaks,
yeah.
restaurant chains. And we hear OZ beef everywhere,
Hmm.
reasonable OZ beef at the supermarket, and people, mothers, they love to buy them for the kids. But I did not know Wagyu exists, and it's such a big thing in the United States before I entered the farming business.
And it is, it is, a super new and small industry still in the United States, but it is growing with the education out there. People are learning a little bit more about it. They're not as scared. And that's really what we're trying to do is just keep educating people so they know where it comes from, how it got here, and
Yeah,
I mean, I loved our conversation so far about it being a spectrum because people really need to understand that it is they could really find something all the way from A5 to F1, and I say it every time, but it is really that spectrum, and there's so much in between, and it's cool to kind of hear these stories and see what people think about it in Japan and everything, and how it's raised in Japan versus here. But a lot of it's the same. Like I'm seeing so many of the same things. Like we have full blood Wagyu ranches here that probably feed close to what people in Japan are feeding their Wagyu, and it's different genetics, like you discussed at this point. But it is pretty cool to see all of the different ranches that are doing different things, just like in Japan. So it's a very close industry. It's almost the same, but it's the same but different, and for a different consumer. I mean, we talked about that. Does the Japanese consumer likes all of that style and a lot of the A5, and the American consumer loves the full blood, but I think more so loves that F1 cross. If you asked a thousand people, you'd probably get more people saying that they like that more steaky F1 cross, and then a smaller percentage saying they like the full blood. But yeah, there's everything in between.
I don't know.
It's
I
so
totally
much.
agree with you. Yeah, industry is very similar in terms of how
Mhm.
it's organized and how it's run. The
Yeah,
only difference I should mention is that our Wagyu industry is very conservative.
yeah,
Since the genetic outflow happened in 90s, they're very much, closing the gate. Um, Let me share some of my story. So I create Wagyu tours for people that are coming from Australia or USA or Europe, and I basically book farm visits and I book the restaurant that's attached to it.
yeah,
And 90% of the time, farmers reject my request. As soon as I
really,
say I have Aussie farmers with me or American farmers with me, so
really,
out of 10, I get one yes.
yeah,
And why? This particular phone call happened to me a while ago. So I had a Brazilian farmer with me in Hokkaido, and I was trying to book a visit with a farmer, and through a mutual friend, I was calling this guy, and he was basically answering me, and I'm sharing the information I have, and I was basically asking for a visit. And, I have a Brazilian farmer with me. Can I visit you and see your farm and eat the beef? And he's basically saying, you have a Brazilian Wagyu farmer with you? What are my neighbors going to think what I'm doing if I host these guys? My neighbor's going to naturally think I'm selling out Wagyu secrets in my barn, and people are going to think I'm a trader.
Yeah.
So these are the most common perception of Wagyu farmers in Japan. So it's going to be pretty hard to book a visit with a Wagyu farmer from overseas, but that's where I come in as a Wagyu tour guide. I have established a network of people across Japan for the
Mhm.
past 5 years. So whether you land to Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo, or Hokkaido, I can show you many different farms, breeding programs, feedlot, and a restaurant attached to it, and you'll love it.
See, that's great though. That's great that you can provide that service, and that's great that the ranches are willing to talk about it because one of the first things that me and you talked about was that we love all Wagyu, and that Wagyu, we want everyone to experience Wagyu, whether it's in Japan or in the United States and Australia and Brazil. We want people to eat better beef. And I think it's cool that you bring people from all over the world and learn, from the Japanese how they do it. Learn not the secrets, but just see how everything's done, so we can keep improving and making some of the keep improving the industry, really, and that's what I love about this, the American Wagyu industry as well, is there's so many people out there that are helping the others and helping you grow their herds and really just trying to take this, trying to create better beef in the United States all the time. And that's something that, the Wagyu industry is really trying to do. But I think it's really cool that what you're doing, and these tours, and I encourage people to, if they want to see Wagyu in Japan, where it originated, is to go through you, and you can set them up, because yeah, it doesn't seem like you can just call up any rancher in Japan and go, hey, can I stop by and check out your ranch? It doesn't seem like it's going to be that easy, does it? Mm.
No, not. But, so throughout the years, I've accumulated this list of
Yeah.
farmers who love overseas visitors and
So
who will answer every question you would have at the
yeah.
farm. They actually welcome you guys. Not only that, through the dialogue with these two sides, Japanese farmers and international farmers,
Yeah.
they ask questions, and I'm the interpreter, by the way,
Yeah.
being in the middle. They talk about difficulties, meat prices, dilemmas, futures in their each market. And, there's always a moment they completely understand where they are in their
Yes.
journey. I love that moment. And, just as a guide, I love doing that for both sides, and farmers are happy on both sides. And after that dialogue, we just go and enjoy his meat. And, we just
Yeah.
learned about his feeding technique and philosophy and feed and terroir. And you're actually enjoying that beef next to the farm. That's their experience I can't adequately describe, but it's actually an amazing opportunity for all international farmers and Japanese farmers.
That's it's so cool. I mean, it's like going to France and getting a champagne tour of all the vines, and and then coming out and drinking the most amazing champagne. So, it just sounds so cool what you're doing, man. And I really, Tyler and I got to get out there. And I know you just spoke with our buddy Jesse Ciccone from Australia, big in the Wagyu industry in Australia, the queen out there, what we call her, is does she's coming up to visit you? Isn't she coming up to take a little tour?
Yeah, in fact, I just got an email from her today that she's
Nice.
coming. She's decided to come.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, she'll be here in July, I think, and she'll gain so many informations here. I think I'm gonna take her to like a carcass venue as well as a processing plant, so that not only international farmers, but chefs, butchers, and all types of people can join the tour and see the industry inside out. And that is just beneficial for both. And we learn a lot. And you guys come on the tour, you'll learn a lot too. And you can just, you know, provide that value back in your hometown. And I know you guys do yakiniku and you cut all the rare cuts and provide them. But in here in Tokyo, actually, there are restaurants actually serve up to 82 different cuts, and it's a cutting show that they cut the whole animal in front of you, and you can grill it in a yakiniku style. So there's just so much, just variables, so many things here to see. So I hope you guys come on a tour, enjoy every minute of it. For the record, I do make custom plans for everyone based
Cool.
on your stated interest.
Yeah.
So you want to see a breeder, I'll show you tons of breeders. If you want to
Yeah.
see feedlot, uh, processing plant, butcher house, yes, I
That's
have access to those as well.
that's what I'd be. I want to see how it gets butchered because it's going to be very different from how we do it in the United States. Not very different, but different, definitely different. And it's been really cool to see, how we can get so much more out of the Wagyu cow in the United States. Because of how it's so much more tender and so much more marbled. You can take some of those cuts that you would be, maybe not very good on a conventional beef and turn them into something that's amazing. And I'd love to see how they do that in Japan, how they really take that entire beef and utilize it. And one question I always have that I ask that no one has answered yet is there, when you're taking a A5 cow, is there a lot of ground beef that comes out of an A5 cow?
Ah, that question, let me get back to you on that. Because
Yeah,
I
maybe
can just
not.
make a phone
So
call
yeah,
to this restaurant owner, and yeah, I'll have a proper answer to you.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but the thing I was going to say to your comment is that let's take yakiniku for example.
Yep.
We eat tongues, tongue tender, all different rare cuts, and then the way we prepare the meat in Hokkaido for yakiniku versus Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyushu are vastly different. So you can actually come and enjoy 2 to 3 visions of just how they process the meat, and you actually take back what's good for you back in Seattle. And I
Yeah.
hope that you can sell more meat out
Yeah.
of the cattle, make more money for you, make more money for the farmer. And my
Yeah.
message for the Wagyu is that with Wagyu, you can eat so many different rare cuts, and there's not a whole lot to throw away.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know that we're trying to utilize the whole cow like as much as possible. That's something that we're on a mission to do, and so yeah, I'd be really interested in seeing that, breaking it down, eating it a whole bunch of different ways, and I like too the different regions. I mean, it's same as the United States. I mean, you have a tri-tip in California versus Texas versus Washington. We're all going to prepare it differently because of maybe some of the wood that we're going to use to smoke it, some of the different cooking styles, different cooking methods. And so it's funny how, I mean, it really is a lot of this stuff's just the same. It's just right. It's just in a different country. It's like we're doing the same things. We're just in a different country. And
Yeah,
it's pretty cool, man, it's nice to have this conversation to really get it out because there's so many, everyone just assumes so many things. We're like, oh yeah, it's in Japan. They just eat A5 and that's it, and that's how they do it. And it's like, well, no, there's so many more ways to. There's so many different ways of how people are doing things, and it's really cool to be talking to you about this. And I know that we're going to have a ton of conversations in the next month or so, and just there's going to be more topics that come up. But I know in this first one, we really wanted to talk a lot about the history and just like what Japan thinks of Wagyu in America, how they utilize it, all the things that you do. And I know that we can get into so many more things and just really detail out the Wagyu industry. But I wanted this one to be a little bit more broad about it and just kind of like welcoming and talking about how we're the same, but we do things a little bit differently. And we all love Wagyu, no matter where it's from. Man, you serve me up any Wagyu, and I'm down. I'm down for it. No matter what. So
that is absolutely a common thing that we just share with the rest of the world, that we have the love for Wagyu, and that's why everyone's in the industry. And yeah, that's if you want to chat next time, next episode, I can certainly talk about more detailed things on cattle management, feed management. There's so much for everyone to discover. Um, let me show you. Let me show you this like 1 minute.
Yeah, yeah.
So things Palmer talk about is just amazing over here.
Hmm.
So this is a picture of a rice straw. Can you see it?
Yeah.
And this is the cut surfaces of the rice straw. Okay.
Wow. So this is what they're
And
being fed, right?
yeah, and this is, more zoomed in photo, but the structure observe the moisture in a rumen provides a habitat for microbes that break down the forage. The lightness of the straw also helps steer the rumen contents, promoting a feeding system with a better digestibility. There are few forages that can replace rice straw, but additionally, straw is rich in Bacillus natto, which is a natto kinase bacteria,
Okay.
which benefit cows, you know, that microenvironment, and many cattle have, improved condition when rice straw is included in the diet. So these are the small, niche information I can share with the rest of you. If you join my tour, or maybe on the next episode, there's just so much detailed information here and there, and we have abundance of information for the world, Wagyu growers on the globe.
I love it. I love that you're willing to share it and help, help educate, because that's something that we really want to do. We want people to see this. We want people to understand what Wagyu is, where it comes from, how to utilize it, how to eat it, not to be scared of it, because it means Japanese cow, right? So
Yeah.
that's really what it is. You don't need to be scared of it. Oh man, and I think for the next one of the next episodes, I really want to get into some of the health benefits and get your perspective on that. We'll dive into some of that. But for now, how does someone get a hold of you to take the tour? How can they find you?
Also, thank you for asking that. So
Mm-hmm.
my primary job is interpreter.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can Google interpreter Yuta Abe, you can also easily find my homepage,
Okay.
and you can contact me because the email is listed there. It's interpreter Yutabe.
Perfect. And I will put that in the show notes so people can get a hold of you and find your website, and they can contact you and learn a little bit more about these tours. And you're doing everyone that takes a tour gets a special little gift, right?
Yes, sir. Thanks for mentioning. So whoever comes on my tour, I'm always giving out this Wagyu brush for competition, where you take your seed stock to the auction, you start brushing with this, on the cattle. People are going to go like, "Oh, where did you get that?" This is you know, they don't sell it on Amazon. I just had to go to the co-op and order it to get it. So it's a pretty rare item.
That's really
Um,
cool.
Also, I have this Wagyu book. It's actually
Yeah.
two languages, English and Japanese. It talks about all the cuts, all the brand, and history of, four different breeds. So I'll
Yes.
give you a copy of this book as well. Um, and for you, even, one of the ways we eat Wagyu is that we love simplicity. We love
Yes.
to not to marinate anything before grilling, and we grill it. We put slight salt or maybe pepper, right?
Yeah.
But let me show you how we eat sushi. When you go to a sushi restaurant and you say, "Oh, let me have an omakase," chef is not going to give you a tuna or sea urchin nigiri at first, because if you taste a stronger flavor in your mouth, your palate's destroyed. So for sushi, you always want to start with white fish or maybe scallop, something with a lighter taste, and gradually move to shrimp, move to salmon, sea urchin, and fatty tuna. That's how you're supposed to eat to enjoy every single thing. For Wagyu, when we go and eat at Yakiniku, we always start with tongues because that's the lightest marble, lightest flavor. We enjoy the texture. Then we gradually move on to hanging tender, chateaubriand, and stronger and more marbled meat, right? So I'm going to give this Sancho pepper, which is our original pepper. It's not entirely a black pepper, but slightly different taste. If you are putting on a piece of steak, I want you to eat. Let's say you cut a steak into 10 pieces.
Yeah.
Maybe on the last two pieces, you can actually spread this one and enjoy it.
Okay. Really?
That's how
Okay.
you can maximize the whole experience, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to send you Sancho, Kettle Brush, and the Wagyu book. So give
Wagyu
me an
book.
address. I'll send it next week.
I will. That is so awesome, man. I really appreciate it. Man, it's so cool. I have so many questions. I wish I could remember every single question I've ever had. But I wanted to give you the floor and really talk about the history of this one. And I think, on our next conversation, like I said, let's really get into some of the science about it, about how it tastes. You were really big on what tastes better, the bull, the heifer, all that stuff. I want to get into all that and the health benefits. And you have so much to talk about that we didn't get to today. But I'm so excited, so grateful that we can talk to you and get this out and learn even more. So thank you so much, Yuta. I will make sure I put your website in the show notes for this one. So if you guys want to get a hold of him to take that tour, to learn more information about that tour and taste Wagyu in Japan, this would be the best way to do it. The best way to go taste Wagyu in Japan is to go with him and go to an actual Wagyu ranch tour and then eat it at the restaurant next door. I mean, like, what's better than that? That's
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Yeah, I appreciate your time and everything, and I will, send you a email including my homepage. So what I do is what nobody else is doing because
yeah,
our industry is so conservative. No one's doing a Wagyu tour but me.
yeah,
So you really can get access to the top tier farmers and you get you see the industry inside out, that's for sure. And I can talk about on the next episode about health benefits, heifers versus steers, melting point, which season Wagyu tastes the best, and all kinds of stuff if you wanted to. So just
yeah.
let me know. If you want to do that. Also, I should mention on this episode as well that all the articles and things I share are from publications. I actually never Google and gain knowledge and speak those information, not by Google search, but all the
Yes.
publications, here, this, this is a meat dictionary, you know, this is a no meat, no life book. But anyway, I just own these publications, 50 plus publication. That's how I, talk about, certain things and create content. So yeah, I'm looking for next episode and we can definitely talk about the health benefit. That's going to blow your minds.
I want to know. I want to know everything because it's a very, it's a very up and down topic in the United States. Like some people are very much on it, other people are not believing it. So I can't wait to get your details on that. It's gonna be
Oh yeah,
fun.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks. You to stick around after this. We'll continue to chat, but we'll cut off this recording here for the Meat Dudes. This is episode 1 with our good buddy Yuta in Hokkaido, Japan, the tour guide interpreter. Thank you so much. We'll chat soon. We'll get another one on the books, and we'll just keep talking Wagyu. I love it.
Thank you for your time and thank you for audience for listening to me. Yeah, great to be with you and see you next time.
All right.